Take. I'm your host, AJ Kierstead. NewEnglandTake.com to get more from the show. Be sure to check out our YouTube channel, all the podcast feeds, all those sorts of things. But NewEnglandTake.com is a Substack if you want every episode in your inbox, as well as our New England Weekly News Roundup that also airs on WKXL, where you're hearing this show possibly, that we air every Saturday, 8:30 a.m. on WKXL Concord and Manchester. Big thank you to thegranitegrok.com for picking up the show Saturday evenings, and Concord TV throws the show in their rotation. My town, glad to be having something on the air over in my local community TV station. Support local media. It's very important, and next week I'm hoping to get someone to talk about local news a little more. It's going to be 5 years of the New England Take. This month, actually. We're about at 5 years, which is crazy. Started on WKXL alone, expanded into YouTube and things like that, and excited to still be on the radio station over there. Firstly, though, we need to start off with a big thank you to PorcupineCoffeeRoasting.com, a private membership organization, fantastic, locally roasted coffee, specialty coffee, and it's great. I drink it every morning. The Kenyan roast I had this past month was awesome. I just got my next shipment, and I'm excited to give it a try. So be sure to check out PorcupineCoffeeRoasting.com. Use code NETAKE for 15% off your order. Been an exciting week of news here in New Hampshire for so many reasons. I want to initially touch on a little bit. There was some New Hampshire Fiscal Policy Institute. Man, I've been talking about them for years. At first, when Gene Martin got hired as the executive director over there, I had him on and a couple of his analysts on, and I kind of gave them the benefit of the doubt, but they're just full bore Democrat lobbying news, quote-unquote, efforts. And there's no way around it. They're Democratic operatives. Everything that they push for is more money and shifting money to be at the state level for equity, quote-unquote, as Andrew Volinsky also likes to discuss. And we be sure to check out that interview I did with Volinsky a few weeks ago, because that was something to behold. They released a quote-unquote report. Sorry for continuing to say that, but it's just... Their messaging around it is just straight up propaganda as opposed to actually being an analysis of the data at a real nonpartisan level, in my opinion. So their report was focused around the fact that there's a disproportionate amount of property taxes for rural towns in New Hampshire versus larger towns, or one town versus another. And yeah, hell yeah, there's property taxes are too high in so many towns and cities in the state. I am never going to disagree with that. But when you look at how the budgets are made up, it's the cost drivers that matter. And cost drivers are never discussed. It's the same thing as we're talking about the income tax to cover schools and in general school funding. No one ever wants to talk about the cost drivers, because if we are charging just tens of thousands of dollars a year to individual property owners, the money's going somewhere. Towns are continuing to cry poverty. When you look at the schools, and we're spending anywhere from $22,000 to $28,000 per student on average, the issue is not the fact that there isn't enough money being thrown at the problem. The issue is, where's that money going? And no one wants to talk about it. And that really killed me. Like, every news outlet in the state essentially picked up this report from NHFPI.org if you really feel like checking it out. But you could basically go on any news outlet here in New Hampshire, and except for the conservative ones, and they picked it up. And the Monitor, the Union Leader, the Bulletin, Seacoast Online, like, everyone picked it up. I don't know if NH Journal did any discussion on it at all, because it's basically any disagreement with the Institute's article, in my opinion, is just going to be straight up analysis or opinion. So I'm sure someone talked about it, but either way, I'm talking about here, because once again, my fundamental idea that I've come to when it comes to the nature of how property taxes are broken in this state is, small towns expect city services. It's the same thing with schools. Small little rural towns in the middle of nowhere that barely have enough students to keep the doors open are expecting city services, whether it's hands-on one-on-one special ed, whether it is the fancy fire trucks or ambulance services, whether it's I don't know, a town park that's perfectly maintained with fields and everything. And we see here even in Concord, this has been an ongoing debate here in the city of Concord for years now, because the middle school, basically, they've been wanting to rip down and put in a new one since the 90s, even though the building was only built in the 70s, if I remember right. So you're talking $120 million or something, bananas like that, to put in a new school when there is a building that they could rehab. Oh, it's going to cost, the cost is so much closer to just putting in a new one, they should just put in a new one. It's not very, using your resources very wisely, and if it's going to cost $400,000 less, you probably should do that. You should be trying to save money. If it's going to cost millions of dollars less, do the less expensive thing, especially as we're seeing a drop in students. But no. Just the schools and outside of school property taxes have the same issue, and we're seeing just poor management and lack of transparency across the board. You basically have to really show up to these town meetings, which you should do. About 20% of voters actually go to town meetings, because guess what? That's where the budget is approved. It's at the town meetings. And nothing's being done about it. And so we just whine that Moulton Borough pays less per capita than some town over on the Vermont border or something like that, where there's barely any people that live there, or an equivalent amount of people, but it's rural, so it's more expensive. So guess what? If it's rural, you don't get to have the fancy new things. They need to be put together with local nonprofits or things of that nature. But I don't know. Either way, let's move on to the next thing that bothered me in the news this past week. All right, so next up here, Ellen Read is someone that I've talked about a few times here. She is a representative from Newmarket, and she caught some headlines this past week going over to NHJournal.com. This goes far beyond this isn't just a conservative-leaning issue here. Representative Read has some serious issues here. NHJournal.com. I'll put the link in the episode description. If you're checking this out on WKXL, NHTalkRadio.com, the article is posted there too. Dem Read's erratic behavior gets her banned from House on non-session days. After she reportedly caused disruptions outside of a Senate hearing last week, State Representative Ellen Read, Democrat from Newmarket, is now banned from being in the House chamber on House anterooms on non-session days. House Speaker Sherman Packard sent Read a letter on Friday informing her of the ban in response to Read's outburst during testimony on a bill she sponsored. She told NH Journal she plans to fight the discipline, quote, "I am consulting with legal counsel at this time," end quote. Sources told NH Journal Read stood in a hall outside the Senate Judiciary hearing room Tuesday night and shouted obscenities while Linda Rule, director of the Office of Victim Witness Assistance at the Attorney General's office, and Senior Assistant Attorney General Jeffrey Strelzin testified against her bill. Her shouting caused a momentary disruption during the hearing. And it's a very brief momentary disruption. It just derails the testimony a little bit. They do go right back into the testimony because she is in the hallway and there's thick doors and stuff. But either way, this is bananas, and this is not the first time she's been a real problem. And she's part of this crew that I think I might have talked about previously on the show, where these people that are Gracie Gatto, Ellen Read, and there's someone, Stacey Brown, who's on the Concord City Council, are all coming together saying that the New Hampshire New Hampshire Coalition Against Domestic and Sexual Violence are bad. They hate them. They want to change the rules so that they don't get money. Claire Best, who unfortunately I've had on the show in the past for another matter, is part of this crew, and there's no way around it. As someone who's just reading what these individuals say, they seem like a bunch of self-righteous weirdos that are problems, to be totally frank about it. And as it is, Ellen Read, I already have huge issues with. So this is going back to 2024, but from New Hampshire Public Radio's website, nhpr.org, Satanic Temple's holiday display in Concord removed after further vandalism because it was ripped down. Ellen Read is the one who worked with the Church of Satan, or whatever they're called, the Satanist organization in the Northeast, based out of Massachusetts, to have them have a display over in Concord on the front steps. For those who don't know, if you're on the marble or the granite area off of the lawn in front of the State House, that's city property. So if you're some wacko doing something like this, having a demon statue put on by the Christmas tree, that's a city thing, not a state thing. People assume that the steps out there belong to the State House because of the location, but it is not. It is city property, and Ellen Read is the reason why the Satanist Ellen Read is the reason why we had a demon statue put in front of or next to our Christmas tree here in my little town of Concord, New Hampshire. So no love for her here, let alone her crazy progressive policies. I don't understand how people think that the way she acts is productive. Once again, going back to NHPR with another article, this is going back to the issue at hand. Everyone knows the F word. Lawmaker faces censure for use of profanity at the State House, so escalating the situation. Democratic state lawmakers. The incident is the latest series of efforts by legislative leaders to sanction lawmakers accused of offensive, disruptive, or abusive behavior in recent weeks. In a letter to Rep. Read last week, Packard referred to her frequent use of profane language during sessions and around sessions, or just around the buildings, shouting at people. And he wrote, quote, was rising to the level of disruption to government proceedings in the room, end quote. This is going back to the hearing with the Department of Justice. And it's pretty bananas when the Republicans have to tell you to chill out because they're a bunch of weirdos in their own right. There's no way around it. Republican Senator Tim Magoo has been in a bunch of headlines recently. It's really weird with Magoo because we don't have a lot of the specifics when it comes to him, because it seems to be abusive staff or just poor treatment of staff. So he's lost all his staff that he has, and people are really upset with him. And to be totally fair, on the Republican side, they're even taking efforts to initiate disciplinary proceedings against Republican Representative Travis Corcoran, who is one of... Look, Rep. Corcoran does post some based good things sometimes on X, but he's extraordinarily problematic. So anyone that wants to call me out because they see that I've reposted him in the past or something like that, he does say some good things occasionally in the mix there that I really agree with. He's a very much libertarian guy, so from an ideological standpoint, yeah, awesome, some of this stuff. But when it comes to just coming like a crazy person is not how you have productive politics happen. It's the whole reason why I call the LPNH, Libertarian Party of New Hampshire, X account too here on this show, as well as on other platforms, because that's not how we have productive change. It's how you just continue to escalate the situation. And it's especially ripe from Democrats to say it's unfair of Republicans to have these things go against Representative Read, when Democrats are the ones that are constantly like pearl clutching at the things that Trump says on a regular basis. So anyone that goes out that you see out there that's a Democrat that starts pearl clutching is like, oh, you can't handle profane language, we can't handle swears, you should see what the other people say and things like that. It's not fair. If they ever were outraged by some crazy thing that Trump said, which probably a majority of them in the lawmaking world have said at some point over the last decade with Trump in the spotlight, they're hypocrites in my opinion. No way around it. And to defend someone like Read that is out there going against this domestic violence assistance organization with no evidence, allegedly she wants some study to be put in place on it. There's no evidence. So you can't do that. I had the same issue with the Children's Scholarship Fund getting the same treatment from Democrats across the board. This is, it's obvious that the coalition is very, very powerful and has a lot of connections bipartisan. Are there possible problems? Yeah, it seems like there's some legitimate issues with their lobbying. I will 100% give this crew of interesting individuals, to be more polite this go around, the benefit of the doubt there. Their lobbying efforts are problematic for sure. What Amanda Grady Sexton, who works for them, she's actually also on the city council and has been an issue with Stacey Brown and Claire Best attacking her through various legal means. Yeah, the coalition should be more straightforward. They 100% should be. I don't think they're approaching it the right way to fix this, to remedy the issue at hand, which is their lobbying efforts. Because there's a lot of money going to there. There's no way around it. But a lot of that money, hopefully, it looks like, are going to the right people. I looked up their IRS filings for what they pay their people. Their people don't make a crazy amount of money. Like, I think Amanda Grady Sexton makes between $80,000 and $90,000, somewhere in that ballpark, if I remember right. It's not like she's getting rich off of this. These are people, I think, that honestly feel like they're doing the right thing. I mean, I think it'd be really hard with the amount of attention that coalition gets for, if there was something, there would be something. And instead, all we have is Gracie Gatto, who has a very sketchy background. She has a podcast if you want to hear her side of it. She's easy to find, and she's already in trouble for trying to collect a ballot for her dead mother, which is a terrible look if you, as a Democrat especially, you want to say we have fair elections that are secure and we don't need all these other things going on like ID and things of that nature. It kind of hurts your argument a little bit there if this is someone you take seriously, which Read does, and I guarantee she doesn't like the student IDs not being allowed going forward for voting for UNH students and such. I don't know. I know our political system has many issues and is very broken. This is not one of those instances. This is an individual with Representative Read where I hope she gets someone takes her seat, because this is a nightmare situation. She's just collecting headlines instead of progress. And if you're a progressive, you should be aiming for progress, not just ridiculous headlines. I don't know. Once again, you put a demon statue on my next to the Christmas tree in my town, I get a little upset just on the face of it. All right, time for me to really annoy some more people here with this article here from the union leader. Emotional testimony offered over parental disclosure bill. An emotional testimony last week, a gay man recounted being outed by a teacher and then abused at home as he urged a House committee to reject legislation, SB 430, that would compel educators to answer the questions of parents about private conversations they had at school. Jay Hawkins of Concord said his struggles began after reporting to authorities that a teacher and fellow student had bullied him when he was in middle school. In response, school administrators called a meeting of the parents and the affected teacher. He said, quote, "In retaliation, that teacher told my parents that I was gay. Had I ever told anyone of that? No. Did I even know that to be true yet? No," end quote, said Hawkins. Quote, "He was angry and he wanted me to get punished too," end quote. And Hawkins was punished, she said. Things got worse. So this is a difficult situation. I understand from a human perspective. This is beyond politics here. Just from a human perspective, I understand this is tragic. And anytime a child is in an abusive situation, it's unacceptable. I hate it. It makes my tummy hurt. It makes my brain hurt. It breaks my heart. I holistically am upset by it. I volunteer with youth in my town. Anytime there's a chance that a child gets hurt or upset over something that isn't their fault is tragic, and I hate it. There's no way around it. On the other side, this is part that's going to upset people, but it's been upsetting people ever since the Parental Bill of Rights legislation has been brought up the last 2 years. Ever since the decisive concept stuff was brought up. If a parent asks a question, a teacher should be required to answer honestly. If there's a chance of abuse going on in the household, that should be considered, but it's not considered by lying to parents. Did this individual's, Jay, who I'm sorry this happened to him, was this approached in the wrong way? Very likely. It seems a little weird how it was brought up. Once again, he was a child when this happened. Maybe there's more to that story. We don't know. This is just off of his testimony at a hearing. But if I'm talking, I need to be able to trust if I ask my kids' teacher something that they're going to answer me honestly. That I'm sorry, this is brought up a lot in the comments on this article on the Monitor and the Union Leader. I saw where there's this weird thing when I kept getting the response to me voicing this opinion saying kids are not property. It's like kids don't have the same rights to privacy that parents do when the parent is involved. So if their parent, people are going to hate this, but from a legal perspective, the parent is the person with freedom of speech. When it comes to the kid, they are allowed to voice a certain amount, but it is the parent's responsibility to raise the child. It's not the state's responsibility to raise the child, as many Democrats seem to think whenever they hear about teachers being the people that make the determination whether something's disclosed or not. A teacher is an arm of the state. A public teacher, public school teacher, anyone who works at a public school is an arm of the government. And for some reason that's missed by many people, and it drives me nuts whenever we try to have an honest policy discussion around the Parental Bill of Rights and various things of this nature and disclosure rules and laws and things like that. Anytime a teacher refuses to answer a question honestly about their child, anytime they refuse to release records, syllabi, curriculum, what's going on in the classroom, that is an arm of the government refusing disclosure. There's no other way around it. The government is refusing to rightfully answer something that the parent, who is the legal person responsible for that minor, because you're talking minors, if you're over 18 it's a different thing, if you're under 18, that child is the responsibility of the parent. And for some reason a lot of people think that's wrong, that's incorrect. And I never getting much more of an answer than the same canned Democrat line that children are not property. Yeah, children aren't property, but they are the responsibility of the parent. And anytime I hear grumblings of a desire to have a law in the books that will limit my ability as a parent to know what's going on when my child is not with me is unacceptable. I can't even joke about it. I joke about a lot of things, but there's no way around it. That's unacceptable. If my child is going to a public school or a charter school, if you're going to a private school, I mean, you're kind of at the mercy of whatever they decide to do in those situations. But if you're going to a public or a charter school here in the state, they should be required to tell you. And if your child is going to a school where they are not legally required to tell you, like I think Manchester has some stuff in the books, there's a handful of NH journals reported on that in the past, you should get your kid out of there. That's a big problem because kids are developing and they're impressionable and they pick things up so quickly. It's the reason why we have the divisive concepts law in the books, is limited as it may be. Children getting the impression over and over again of certain things, good or bad or otherwise, does leave an impression on them to think that, to be terrified that global warming, for example, is something that's brought up a lot, and it's brought up as science and things of that nature. So yeah, there's global climate change, but don't scare the crap out of my kid, please. Like there's a happy medium here where you can say this is the impact of this or that, but now the kid is scared that it's not specific to my kid, but every time you turn on the car, we're killing the rainforest like we were kind of taught when we were kids. Like that's terrible. That's not how it works. It's not science using the science. It's wrong. Teachers and administrators need to be responsible for the impression they give kids. And if they're saying, no, we know what's best for you, I'm a trained professional, and we start getting the world of credentialism as the reason why parents should not be allowed to know what's going on in the classroom, on the recess playground, in the lunchroom, things like that, that's unacceptable. There is obviously an issue where there's pestering parents, and there does eventually hit a line where obviously if you really want to know every second of what's happening to your kid in school, you should be homeschooling them 100%. Sorry, that's the way it is. They're not putting a camera in every classroom because there's privacy and security issues with things like that. That was brought up for a while by some individuals. I don't know whether Rebuild actually started putting that stuff out there, but that's really problematic because it's not just your kid in this situation. But having an interaction with your kid's teacher, it really should be honest. And from the teacher perspective, if you're honestly not sure, that maybe you should be delegating this to your school counselor or your administration. Like, that's the point of them being there. If you're a teacher and you're afraid that you're going to get asked a question about this, be honest with your administrator. Yes, this kid's gay. I'm afraid of abuse at home. I really need to run this up the chain of command here, just like any other workplace, and say, I need your help for this. That's what they're there for. If the administrators are refusing to answer, then yeah, obviously that, I think laws like this could be very productive, because the administrator should also be forced to answer honestly. But we really need to make sure that parents are the center of this. And it's, as I always say, it's tragic when there's abuse, but abuse is a different thing. Abuse, there are laws and rules on the book to handle those sorts of things. The issue is we keep hearing this assumption that this worst case scenario is what happens every single time, or a majority of the time, or even if there's a slight chance it's going to happen, there's always risk in life. If you're interacting with the public in any way, there's always going to be a risk. If you're a school teacher, I'm not saying it's an easy job. It's a very tough job emotionally, psychologically. It's stressful. You're dealing with a bunch of kids who, especially when you start getting older in high school and middle school and things like that, the hormones and the development issues that could arise, or just development in general, is terrifying for a child. And to just say, well, I think there could be abuse, so I don't want a law that requires disclosure to be put in place, it's wrong. It's ethically wrong. It's legally wrong. You are an arm of the state. I cannot harp on that enough. A public school teacher is a government representative. You're a public employee. You're not a state employee necessarily. You're a municipal employee or something of that nature, or you belong to a charter or something of that nature. But parents need to be allowed every bit of information they ask for every single time. And if you disagree with that, leave a comment. Leave a comment if you're on YouTube, podcast services, all the social medias. AJ@newenglandtake.com. If you've got more to say than kids aren't property, I don't really care about your opinion on this matter. But if you have a little more to say on the matter, I'd love to hear it, because this is a thing that's not going anywhere. This is going to be an ongoing situation that it's obvious Republicans see enough of a demand from their constituents or their own ethics to continue down this row, and good for them. Sorry, not sorry. We need to protect kids, and not in the oh no an F word. It's not the 90s. This is a matter of the focus on social and emotional learning in schools is so cornerstone to what they teach, that we need to make sure that parents are in the loop on what's going on, because you're having a bigger impact in their development than we initially thought when we were younger. When I was younger, I'm 39. Like, we need to have honest disclosure. All right, we're out of time here. Wrap up. This has been the New England Take. I'm AJ Kierstead, newenglandtake.com, Substack over there. Great way to support the show, just throwing it out there. Big thank you to porcupinecoffeeroasting.com. Use code NETAKE. A little discount there, and shows that you heard about the roasters, which is awesome, from my show, and continues to have them support me with fantastic coffee, because I love it. Big thank you to WKXL for picking up the show every Saturday, 8:30 a.m. Love what they got going on over there. Local programming, so important. They got all sorts of sports broadcasting going on over there now, which is great. GraniteGrock.com, spreading the good word and crazy word and awesome word. Love what they're doing over there. And Concord TV for picking up the show. NewEnglandTake.com. I'm AJ Kierstead. We'll talk to you soon.